Future, 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 future. Welcome to the future. It's actually the past by the time you watch this. I am Smick. Joining me today for feedback and filibusters is Kyle. It's not snowing, but snow.
It's probably snowing somewhere.
Also,
Antarctica, perhaps?
That's
we live in
deep.
Alberta. On this side, it'll snow in May for sure. It always does.
Speaking of the powerful avalanche himself, Ryan Power.
I play for Colorado. No, I don't. Anyway. Hello, internet.
Wrong cast, Ryan.
Yeah, that's me. We're here for feedback and filibusters. I'm excited.
Yeah, because you know what? Last time was a little bit depressing, I thought. There are a few things that are going on that we have such little control over. This is my thought process here. So this time we're going to focus on something a little bit more optimistic, and I might make this a fairly regular occurrence. Let me know if you think this is a good idea in the comments below. But today we're going to talk about the future, and most of this is going to surface around some things that I find really cool that are coming up, things that Powers and Snow find really cool, if indeed they find anything cool that's coming up in the future. I suspect there might be a thing or two. But in any case, so yeah, I mean, just to do a quick recap of the week, Trump did something, Kim Jong-un did something, and there's things happening in the Philippines. Yeah,
Hillary Clinton's still blaming the Russians on the election, I heard.
Well,
I heard a story how she literally says that they lost it in the last few weeks. She said it had nothing to do with their approach to being arrogant or smug. It was basically just a bunch of misogynists and Russian influence. And you're like, wow. So you're really just hammering home the dirt, are you?
Yeah, so that's definitely its own discussion, I think. I mean,
that's not optimistic though. That's all fake news.
Nice memes, bro.
You know what? I'm not wading into that puddle today. Today we're shooting for the stars.
I'm an astronaut. I don't know. I was trying to. What do people do when they're in space? Probably stop breathing.
Well, I love how that was like both Shane and I were on the same page there. He's like, stars. And I was like, yeah, stars. And then Ryan's like, it's like we're doing like a relay race, and then we give it to Ryan, and he's just like,
and the worst part is I said someone will stop breathing, and this is supposed to be an optimist cast, and I just instantly default to dead man in space. I just can't help it.
Yeah.
I'm a negative Nancy, I guess.
So we don't have to be all optimistic because the future isn't always optimistic. There have been a couple.
The future is now.
Well, the future is now, and then it's like a second from now. Yeah. So, but like at the same time, it's. I recognize that the future isn't all that optimistic for everyone all the time, and I get that. And I believe there have been a couple of movies in the past that have shown that maybe the future isn't that great if you fuck it up like some people want to. So, on that note, I'm actually going to cover some things that I think are really cool, though, that are coming our way, starting with something which most people may not even think about that often, but which I think is going to have a pretty huge impact on us going forward. And basically, it kind of starts with cows and pigs and chickens. We all love our cows, pigs, and chickens. I assume there's no vegans here. No one's a vegan, right? Or a vegetarian?
No.
I mean, people are entitled to believe what they want to believe in terms of how that they eat, but I'm of the opinion that we're apes, so it's okay for us to eat other animals because that's what, predators do. Sorry.
The only kind of meat that I refuse to eat is well done steak.
Wow. So he likes it bloody is what he's saying.
Yeah, mid-rare is my preferred, but I'll go up as far as medium well, but I will not be happy with medium well.
But I mean, the fact that we can have that the discussion about how bloody you like your cow when you eat it, I mean, isn't that just proof that we're still animals? I mean, like, come on, guys.
Well, it's not about it being bloody. Just like if you're gonna do well done steak, just eat the chicken instead, you bastard.
So with that final decisive moral blow, Kyle takes the argument to a new level, and we're going to take it back down for a second here, because basically here's the thing: is that I think that probably we all agreed to some degree that meat is tasty and we like meat. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good consensus. So from that point of view,
sorry, vegans.
Yeah, well, that's just the sample we've got here, the sample population. But
the opinions of Ryan Power are representative of approximately 25% of Pajodcast Media's overall views. They are not indicative of the company as a whole.
But we all like meat.
No, it was a throwback to a joke.
We're in the meme factory now.
Apparently.
So, anyways, so meat is great. Meat is tasty. We like burgers. We like steaks. We like chicken, etc. However, there is a dark side to meat.
How do you guys like them? No, I'm kidding. Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah. So yeah, so basically there is a dark side to meat, and I'm not going to even go into. I'm not going to even go into what PETA shows, the factory farms and stuff like that, which is pretty awful and brutal, I think. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go into greenhouse gas emissions, of which manure makes up approximately 25,000 million tons. It's some ridiculous number. Anyways, mostly in methane. Which I'm not going to touch that either because, we're trying to remain optimistic here. What I'm going to go into is an alternative to meat that looks like meat, that tastes like meat, and does not produce as much. So basically, the biggest concern I'm worried about is manure in general. I'm not talking about greenhouse gases. I'm talking about what happens. So when cows poop, that poop gets washed away by rain. All right, that poop eventually ends up in a river somewhere and pollutes the river and causes all sorts of potential issues like E. coli and things like that. Not to mention contaminating the water for anyone who's using it for anything other than, boating on or whatever else people do in rivers.
That sounds really shitty.
Yeah.
Going back to the well for that one.
Oh, wow.
Don't give me the presentation. I don't have more than that. It was a one-liner, Shane.
I couldn't let that pun go unanswered without proper
the wall
Defend
of shame.
the pun.
Yeah, the wall of shame.
Yeah.
So in any case, it is really shitty. So basically, I'm just reading some stats here. The USDA suggests that one dairy farm with 2,500 cows produces as much waste as a city with around 411,000 residents.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So all the ethical concerns aside, the greenhouse gas concerns aside, the cruelty concerns aside, if you're concerned about that, there are economic reasons as well as to why you wouldn't want to make meat out of animals because they're expensive, right? I mean, think of how much money goes into raising a single cow for slaughter between, the antibiotics and steroids that go into them, plus, just feeding them, housing them, watering them, caring for them. I mean, it's in a farmer's best interest to make sure that cows and chickens and whatnot live to the right age to be slaughtered, right? So that's a huge amount of money that's being spent on that. So what if I told you, and I'm talking to you out there as well, that we could make an alternative? Yeah, that's right, Ryan. That we can make an alternative that is made from the same cells as a chicken or a cow or a fish or any animal that you can imagine that is alive.
Are you talking about cloning adult animals and then just murdering them immediately?
I mean,
well, how would that get rid of the waste? You just have
because if you clone them as an adult,
the issue. Because if the issue is that there's too many cows, I don't see how cloning more.
No, it's because the issue comes in all the time leading up to the slaughter. If you clone it fully done and then you just kill it immediately, but it's got no time except for maybe that one poop. But other than that, it's good to go.
That one poop. So just like the morning that it's born, it comes out of the tube. It does its
well, usually when you kill something,
it's the tube. Like it comes out of a tube too. Like let's just.
It comes out of a canister. It's like toothpaste. You just like
some 80s sci-fi movie has already showed us this future, and it's scary.
Is it scary like Star? What was that movie called again?
Hold on.
Star Crash?
Hold on. We don't want to.
Star Crash.
Star Crash.
Copyright infringement.
No,
sorry.
they didn't.
No.
Oh wait, actually no, they did, didn't they?
They did. We won that one.
That's the one that's still active.
Oh.
No, we won the Warner Brothers one. We won the one with the big reputable company. They said just no, whatever.
Whatever. Your 19 viewers can see this for free, I guess.
So yeah, on that note, it's not Star Crash. It's actually there's a company out there right now, whom I think is the leading company in this field right now, that has done just that. They have made cow. They made hamburgers before. They have made a chicken burger recently, and they've also made a meatball. And
now,
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna play the ignorant person here.
Before you do that,
what? No.
Let's watch it.
Ignorant questions.
Yeah.
I want you to clarify your stance.
Yeah.
First of all, you said in the upfront that it tastes the same. Yet
Yeah.
I've heard lots of reports of people who ate them. You're talking about the genetically created cells in meat that they didn't taste the same, and that's something they're figuring out. So where could you confirm in the links of the video for sure? Where does it state that they did enough sample to confirm that this tastes the same without people knowing whether it was real or not real?
Well, where's the beef, Shane? Pun counters at 2 now.
Now, unless you're saying down the road they'll get it to taste the same. If
happy
that's
to
what you're
see.
saying, that's completely okay. but
No.
is it there yet?
So here's okay. So first off, before we do that, let's watch the video. Let's watch the video.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fair.
So
We're gonna watch a video on the internet.
We're gonna watch the video on the internet.
2, 1, go.
My name is Uma
One,
Valetti. I am the
two.
CEO of Memphis Meats.
good.
We
Excellent.
started Memphis Meats to make eating meat delicious, safe,
Much
and
better.
healthy for everyone. We have had this technical breakthrough of using real meat cells to grow meat. The meatball that changed the world. There is not enough resources to feed a growing world's population. The greenhouse gas emissions from our process is 90% less than what traditional animal agriculture would cause. So
like that
today
part.
what we are doing is something that we've been working on for the last 2 to 3 weeks, and we farmed meat cells from beef. We brought it over to the kitchen along with our team, and we also had a specialty chef named Dave Anderson. What we asked him to do is to recreate the
Hey, I'm
experience
playing
of the
with
meatball.
meat.
He took the meat that we grew,
Oh,
he used a recipe, Italian meatball recipe, and created a beautiful meatball, and we watched him cook it.
How beautiful
we watched
is it?
how the meatball reacted when it was put on a
Frying pan looks
One.
terrible.
The sizzle,
One meatball in it.
with the meat
Yeah.
that would be cooked, and
You don't wanna eat
it
in
was
excess.
exactly what you would expect.
Look at how small all the
beef
portion sizes
meatball
are.
to smell like.
They should have brought in Gordon Ramsay to be like, it's overcooked.
It's good.
What is
You know, this is the
that?
first
sorry,
time a
but nobody
meatball
eats portion
has
sizes,
ever been
that's why.
cooked with beef cells that did not require a cow to
Yeah, I
be
know.
slaughtered. So, this was a
here in
big
America.
momentous occasion for us, and given that it tasted
It looks like it's
exactly
genetically engineered
like,
meat.
it's one of the historic moments in the history of our company, and I'm glad you're here to capture it.
Yeah, but he just said that. That doesn't confirm that. Saying that it tastes exactly like meat isn't like you need people who aren't involved with the company to taste it and then say it looks
Yes,
exactly like
indeed.
And the problem
your,
is
your
those
skepticism
people.
is lovely. Here's the thing. So when those
I know.
people, because when you did the hamburger thing, which is what those people were responding to, the
Mm-hmm.
hamburger didn't have any spices on it at all. So when you get a hamburger
Correct.
from anywhere, it will have spices on it. If you make it yourself, you're a very unusual person if you don't put spices on it.
But I have had hamburgers made homemade without spices, like homemade rolled in the onion stuff. But to be
Right,
fair, they put the
onions.
onion stuff in the mix. So
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, you're right that the people who tasted the hamburgers were underwhelmed with it, and I think that's a fair thing to say for sure. But it's not because the meat didn't taste like meat. It's because the hamburger didn't taste like a hamburger, because the hamburger didn't have the things.
Yeah.
in it.
Why would you make it and not put any spices on it in the first place? Like,
I
what's
think
the...
I think the idea was to prove the proof of concept. And by the way, I'm not sponsored by these guys or anything. I just kind of love the work that they're doing. But
I understand the argument too, Shane, about this wasn't spiced like a hamburger. I'm just saying that I think at the end of the day, there is a perspective that is decently legitimate where people have tried to manufacture the fresh feeling of non-frozen foods or non-produced foods in those categories, and a lot of times it's very factory level, or it's not the same amount of quality. And the closest example I can come up with is the soft cookies that they said were just like the baked cookies. Remember when Chips Ahoy first released those, and everyone was like, "Oh, this is going to be just like a baked cookie," and then you eat it, and you're like, I mean, it's a soft chemical cookie. It does. There's something in it that doesn't. It's not really a home baked cookie.
right,
And
there's a difference.
yeah, of course, and that's what I'm saying. I just wanted you to make sure that that's what you're clarifying.
Yeah,
there,
so
is
so
that-
the big difference between chewy cookies, which is what I think you're talking about, and between chewy cookies and regular Chips Ahoy cookies versus
or baked cookies, you mean baked, like homemade baked cookies?
or baked cookies, yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Because that's the experience they're trying to emulate. They're trying to tell
Well,
you this is good.
I mean,
but
they're
it's
all kind of. I guess. Yeah, you're right. So the chewy and baked. The big difference between that is that they're actually using different ingredients, right?
Okay.
So I mean, you have preservatives. You have the things that you need to make something sit on a shelf for long enough for people to buy them and not have mold growing all over them. Makes sense. And also to keep them soft and pliable and whatnot to some degree, even if it affects the taste or affects the texture. So yeah, it's different ingredients. You take this stuff though. You take the Memphis Meat stuff specifically, and I think there's a few other companies that are doing it too, but they are literally growing the part of a cow that you would want to eat in a petri dish. And they are taking actual cells from an actual cow, and they are growing them, they're turning them into stem cells, and they're growing them in a petri dish.
Okay, so in theory, like if you could give a cow like a transplant and it would like take. Maybe medically they don't have that kind of technology, but this is the right material, right?
I think that's probably
Yeah.
fair to say. Yeah, I
Right
think
genetic material. Yeah.
Are they replacing organs and stuff though? It seems like you're saying they're just creating meat out of it.
yeah.
Right.
So
I
And I'm
was getting
assuming
a
this
little
would
bit.
allow them to mass produce quality cuts a lot easier. Like if you want prime rib or
yes.
you want, yeah,
Imagine,
which is kind of nice.
imagine a T-bone steak that costs you 15 cents a pound or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
But the dark side of this, and I'll just use this as a segue to ask you another question about this
Mm-hmm.
that I'm sure people will, listening might want to talk about or see us talk about. The You're talking about the economic benefit of, now all these farmers wouldn't have to spend so much money hiring people to run their ranches because they wouldn't have as many cows, and the meat industry would be able to produce products for a lot cheaper. But the reverse side of that is how many people lose their jobs because the traditional meat factory plants and everywhere that
But
it's such a
Ryan,
big industry. It's obviously, as you were saying, economically a little overfunded probably because of how large it is and how old school a lot of the processes are. How many people, how much of a financial impact do you think this has
but Ryan,
if say it's executed successfully?
don't forget how many people could go get jobs at McDonald's now because it would cost them so much less for the burger. They could pay all these extra employees,
So,
even though they're moving towards automation. Maybe
that's-
McDonald's
Indeed.
wasn't the best example. Okay,
So-
here's it.
Yes.
We can cut welfare checks
There's
in half for all
this
these
is where we
unemployed
go to the
people.
dark future.
so
where nobody's employed and everything's mass produced for cheap.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
well,
and that's
you don't
that's
need money if your basic needs are met.
well, I mean, and that's a discussion I would like to have at some point, and maybe this is the time for it, maybe not. But basically, you're right. The economic impact of agriculture is gigantic. Like, especially in the U.S., where you have huge subsidies for farms, and in Canada, it's subsidized too, but in a kind of different way. Basically, when you start taking, I mean, theoretically, once the technology becomes less expensive, because it's very expensive right now, it's in the thousands of dollars to create, a pound of meat. But once it becomes to the point where it's cost competitive, even once it breaks even with regular meat, I think you'll see a number of people switching over just for the environmental and
Yeah.
cruelty perspective. And once it becomes mass produced, then there's no reason to think that basically you'll end up at the point where getting meat from a real animal will be not that common anymore. I mean, you'll still be able to get it because everyone has things they like, and some people just will refuse to eat cultured meat, I believe. But at the same time, it will be a lot less common. It'll probably be a lot more expensive for those people to do that.
Do it.
You know what's going to happen with all these farmers? I know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to take their favorite animals with them, and they're going to enter street fights like Pokemon.
Yeah. My
Go,
cow,
cow!
versus your chicken.
Use moo.
The cow is gonna win with that, by the way. No,
Well,
the chicken's pretty feisty. We're not gonna get into cow versus chicken.
So,
Um,
but yeah,
I'm just saying, I know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm an expert on animal fighting. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but I have all 8 badges.
oh my god,
I am a Pokemon master.
I had no idea.
That was just next to us.
Feedback and Filibusters, the hottest Pokemon gym collection. Okay.
So,
Well, I mean, the
here-
first, not the
to,
hottest.
to also kind of to counter my own point that I made before too, or I guess just play devil's advocate, and kind of to Shane's point.
More like Capitals advocate, am I right? Jersey Ryan?
Yeah. But even though this will cause a lot of lost jobs, as you were saying, Shane, like obviously it's going to have a financial impact on the economy. If it does, like obviously the technology is starting to get to that point. If they can just start, genetically creating meat, it's not a matter of if that technology will cause people to lose your jobs. If it becomes successful, it's a matter of when. And that's kind of the problem. Is it's like we're not advocating that people lose their jobs, or as Kyle was saying, we're not advocating that people no longer work at McDonald's because they replace it with automation, but about profit. So even if you look at it from an economical perspective, people are always going to cost you more money over the long run than anything that you can produce for cheaper, because people will want more money as time goes on, especially as they stay at your company longer, especially as inflation and the rate of salaries goes up. You're always going to keep spending more money on people, and you're going to have more hassles because people want shifts off and hours, and like the list just goes on and on and on. So even though we're not there yet, it's still one of those things where you got to get ready for the fact that companies will leave you high and dry, leave their employees high and dry. They've done it. There's countless examples of this happening. And I mean, you can even look years and years and years ago to the early construction and then implementation of the railroad system. That was one of the biggest boons from an economic sector. Yet, if you look at it today, how many people still work in the railroad industry? Significantly less, because it just wasn't a sector that could maintain that. It at a certain point, the technology wasn't what was current enough, and that's how them ropes. That's how it goes sometimes, right?
Oh, it's not even just that. Even in an industry that's a little more close to home, there is a board in Canada that is trying to get it so that you can pay waiters less than minimum wage, similar to how they do in the States, because they think that we're overpaid right now. Because even though I obviously not speaking for every restaurant ever, but in the nondescript company that I work for, you get paid minimum wage and you never get raises outside of minimum wage going up, but you're supplemented by tips. They want to pay us less, which I think that most people would argue. I mean, the tipping percentages tend to be much higher in the States, but like it's real shitty when you don't get paid a salary of any kind, because basically all of their tips or all of their wages are claimed for taxes. Like they work for their tips in the States.
Yeah, they just in a lot of cases.
So actually, I'm pretty sure in Alberta that already is the case.
I'm not certain about this. I want to say it hasn't been implemented anywhere in Canada yet, but I'll double check this.
But to the point I was making, and you're just saying that as well, Kyle. No matter what, businesses are always looking for ways to cut costs. Period.
Oh, absolutely.
And the moment that number starts to align with, if we just paid to replace things like McDonald's is currently doing with more automation, how much cost do we cut? And if those numbers inevitably add higher and higher, which they will, the way technology becomes cheaper and cheaper and people become more expensive, there's an inevitable road where you hit and go, this is it. People are losing their jobs. Industries are changing.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about.
So it's actually liquor servers specifically, but it looks like we have changed that now. It used to be that liquor servers would make less than minimum wage by about $1.20 or $1.50, but now.
Whereas in the States, it's significantly less. They're making like $2 an hour, maybe.
Yeah, that is
a question that will get asked is, yes, sure, times change, and because of that, industries change, and that is an inevitability. But are people trying to push that quicker than it needs to happen? And obviously, we know people will argue that in some sectors. Shane brought up previously greenhouse gas emissions, climate change. There's lots of sectors where people think this is happening a little harder than it needs to. Like we're not letting the change come. We're pushing it to it. And is this technology, Shane, for the meat? Do you think that it's still in early stages? Like, how far away do you see this being a big economic and societal changer?
I mean, it's so the CEO has actually some idea of what he would like to see, and I think his projection's somewhere in the 5-year range, where it's completely like on par.
With quality and production.
With mostly just the price, because the production is going to take a while to ramp up. But I think that once you get, I'm going to say when you get within. When you get to be about twice as expensive as ground beef, for example, then I think that's where you're going to start to see kind of a snowball effect, because more people are going to be interested in it. Like I personally would pay a little bit more for meat that I know. Oh God, it's going to make me sound like one of those people. But anyways, for meat that has not had anything to do with animals, that has nothing to do with negatively harming the environment, other than the electricity and water that they use to make the meat, and in general is going to be just better for everyone in the world, because that extra feed that's going to cows and chickens and whatnot right now could be sold elsewhere in the world to actually push down the prices of things like corn and wheat and quinoa and everything else that we're growing now.
Right, and that's easy to say, though, as somebody who's relatively well off. But if you're somebody who's living paycheck to paycheck, you're going to take the cheap money where it can come from, right? Like, ethically, I don't think anybody would disagree with that statement.
Well, I think Shane was also mostly speaking practically, like...
Oh, for sure. But he said, like, the statement is willing to pay, like, he would be willing to pay a little bit more. I would as well. But if I was living paycheck to paycheck and, like, this is like, oh, well, this means I can pay off my shitty, like, somebody who's made a mistake in the past in their life, right? Like, somebody who's gone on a payday loan place, and it's like, well, I could just eat at regular places that fuck up chickens, but now I don't have my payday loan anymore after 6 months. Like, I can't look down on anyone for doing something like that, right? Like, it's
I would never like.
No, I didn't mean to suggest you would, but I think that it would take a lot longer to implement with people, because not everybody's necessarily in a position where they can afford to do something like that.
And I agree. I think the thing that I'm thinking about is a snowball effect, though, where you have like some people who are willing to pay a little bit more start to buy it, That allows them to produce more. As they produce more, the cost of production goes down, so they can produce more for cheaper. As that happens, the price gets pushed down, and more people who are willing to pay just a little bit more will start to buy it. And then that continues to push the price down further and further as production ramps up. And Memphis Meat
until it becomes competitive with actual product.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of my take on it. Like I think this is kind of an inevitability at this point. It's not like it's technically impossible, and it's not like it's economically impossible or unreasonable.
And I mean that's obviously provided hazards and issues. Like
I mean,
as
once
they
again,
ramp up production, it's a new venture. You're going to learn a lot more about things in general as you start exploring these new ventures a little larger like that. I think.
Yeah, and I think that
whether that means. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and it just the caveats with any kind of future prediction is that if something catastrophic happens, obviously it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen the way that we think it's going to.
In that same vein, we're talking meat. About a year ago, maybe it might have been a little bit longer. Shane you shared with me a Kickstarter page for a product that grows vegetables in a small enclosed aquarium type situation.
Yep.
You could put that anywhere at home. This is obviously a similar product. It's meant to replicate the garden experience, just a lot more conveniently, cheaper, a lot more efficient, a lot more energy conservative.
Yeah,
is that still going? Is that a thing that is still active? I apologize for misremembering the name, but I figured if we're talking about meat, more optimistic future thing would be this as well. It kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, it's true. I think I don't remember the name of that specific one, but the gist of it, and I'll see if I can find it here. But
that's fine.
Poe has some very strong opinions about animal eating.
Yeah, Poe doesn't want genetically created meat. Poe likes it raw.
Yes.
That's a good name for the cast. Feedback from Filibusters. Poe likes it raw.
Poe likes.
That sounds dark. Okay.
That sounds really dark.
Yeah, probably not that
optimistic cast. That's it.
We'll go with something happier. That would be ironic, though.
Yeah. So the name of the thing is, where is it here? Smart Herb Gardeners. This isn't the one. No.
But anyway.
So basically, the gist of it is,
it's
basically it's an all-in-one self-contained hydroponic system where you can grow plants up to. I mean, you can get them in different sizes, and basically they use LED lights to provide the it's in lieu of sunlight basically, but it's done intelligently so that it actually grows faster than if it was outside, and you don't require. I believe in this one you don't require soil. And basically how it works as well is it actually detects when your plant needs water, so it waters it for you. It detects when it's based on the program you set it on, it will turn on the lights when it needs to, and it will basically grow food faster and better and with no pesticides or herbicides inside your house, so you don't even.
It sounds like it needs less supervision too. Like if all that's just taken care of, you can just check on it every once in a while.
Yeah, and if you know nothing about gardening,
if I remember correctly too, this is also advocating for people who live in climates where it's hard to grow things, right?
Or even in an apartment.
You can just put it in your room. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I mean, for modern day life in the western side, but I mean even people on countries that are, starving, if you will, setting them up with one of these and giving them the ability to grow.
The only thing about this one is that it's kind of it's expensive. This one I think
for now
the base model
the
was
technology to do it is expensive
somewhere
for
around
now.
$300. Yeah, and it's still expensive. It will get less expensive over time, but it's the same thing. And I mean, one of the more exciting future aspects of this in the next 20 or 30 years is that this is the type of technology we can take with us on a spaceship, on a rocket, to go to a different planet somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
what planet would we go to, Shane?
Well, we're going
they
to
extrapolate
Mars.
it. They could also use that technology inside of a biodome or some type of setup on a planet and make that soil better to grow and whatever have you, right? This is the beginning stages of that whole us figuring out things without needing nature to help us. That's basically the idea. Technology replaces nature and allows us to just do.
I was trying to set up,
if you will.
Yes, absolutely. The replicators. I was trying to do a sweet segue, and then I realized that was almost the last topic that we wanted to do. So, good job, me. It was yeah.
I mean,
where are we going to go, Shane?
That's probably okay, down. Since we're kind of pushing time here, but that's up to you guys. We could move on to Mars.
Because we're about halfway through right now. So
yeah.
Okay.
So basically, yeah. So there's one other thing I want to cover before we get there, and yeah. So just for anyone who's watching right now, we always have a list of topics to get through, which is what Kyle was referring to, and our conversations usually expand far beyond what they initially were going to be. So we're gonna hit a couple more things. We're gonna hit at least one more thing before we go to Mars.
Before we go to Mars.
Before we go to Mars,
We're going right now today.
So,
pack my
so
bags,
what you're
I'm
saying?
ready.
Yeah, we'll bring Matt Damon since he's the only one who's ever been there before.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, the only one, yeah, the first colonist. Yep.
Yeah, he was the smartest botanist on that planet.
He was the smartest.
And look at that. He's a botanist. We're going to need him to run our future biodome earth thing, soil thing that we've got taken along.
Not if it's connected by Wi-Fi, man. If it's connected by Wi-Fi,
yeah, you're right. You're right. We don't need a botanist. Everyone's a botanist at that point.
It's true.
The technology does it for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's
There's
obviously
your title,
caveats
Kyle.
to that.
Everyone's a botanist. That's our title.
Yep.
Everyone's a botanist. But yeah, so basically one of the and you know what? Because we're talking about it right now, anyways, I'm actually gonna pull up something that has been unscripted.
Ooh, are we ready for this?
I don't know if you guys are ready for this.
I don't think we're ready for this,
I
Jelly.
don't know if I'm ready. I'm ready. I was born ready.
Let's see here.
That's literally what I said when I came out of the womb. Born ready.
So
With with a cigar and scotch, like ready with you.
And the irony is, I think I'm premature too, so that's
I'm
not
ready.
actually the case. I would have been unready. I don't know how that works.
So
Yeah,
because,
well, it's not like you were, there remembering it.
Actually, no. You know what? According to science, I wasn't. They say that your DNA changes so much that when you're a kid, it wouldn't even match when you're an adult versus when you're a kid. So realistically,
Your entire body
you can't scientifically prove that was me unless you get it on tape. So.
You're right.
And
Ryan.
not only get it on tape, but film me the rest of my life to confirm that what happened there.
So like that.
into this.
So like that movie they made or are making.
Oh yeah,
they're making
Boyhood.
What?
That's the one.
Yeah.
Oh, they did make. I have not watched it yet, and I'm a Linklater fan. Anyway, that's not this cast.
So, bringing it back to the discussion at hand. Yeah, there's a random video I threw in our channel there. If you guys want to get on it and go to 0, basically what this is kind of a mass. It's a mass version of the thing that Brian actually just brought up with the Kickstarter. It's called a vertical farm, and this is another way that we will meet our plant needs in the future. So we've already figured out the meat, right? We got that down pat, and I double checked. The CEO suggests that they'll have a product reasonably priced for market by 2021. That's the hope that he's going for. So 4 years.
Are we watching this vid?
Yeah, I'm gonna move it over here.
All right, I'm paused at 0.
As
All right,
am I.
here we go in 3, 2, 1, and go.
1.
You can't
Much better,
see it on
guys.
the
Went off without a
outside,
hitch
but
this
this
time.
old industrial neighborhood
We're
is
so
an
much better.
agricultural oasis. Inside this former laser tag
Oh, is
arena,
it?
about
Inferno
250 kinds of
limits.
leafy greens are growing in huge
I was gonna go
quantities
with an
to be
oasis
sold
joke.
to local supermarkets
So
and restaurants.
maybe they're going to be the ones that save
This
us.
is Aero Farms, a massive
Wonderwall.
indoor vertical
Yeah.
farm
Yep.
in Newark, New Jersey.
Our mission is
Aero
to
farms.
build
I love how
farms
future
and
things always have to
cities
name
all over the
themselves
world so
something to do
people
with
have
life.
access to fresh, great tasting, highly nutritious food.
Crops are stacked more than 30 feet high
Really?
inside this 30,000
These
square
people have
foot
all been
space.
media
They're
trained
grown
because they're
using
all given the
aeroponic
script
technology.
of it. Make sure you say it
Typically, in
tastes
indoor
great.
growing, the roots sit
No, but he
in water
looked
and
high.
one tries to oxygenate
he's
the
been-
water. Our
I wonder
key
what kind of things
inventor
even grow to the
realized
vertical
that if
farm.
we missed nutrition to the root structure,
Of course,
then the roots have a
listen,
better
what comes from the
oxygenation.
earth is of the
Aero
green.
Farm says the root misting system allows
You are
them to
wearing the hat,
use
right?
95% less water than a regular field farm. They also use no pesticides or herbicides. Instead of soil, plants are
That part I'm
grown
on
in
board with.
We
reusable
should also
cloth
state, too,
made
that
from
even
recycled
when we're talking
plastic.
about the meat
And
thing,
instead
and
of the
this is another
sun,
perfect example,
there are rows
it's
and
easy to have
rows
a
of
jaded
specialized
opinion or
LED
I'll
lighting.
call it
A lot
rural
of people
opinion
say,
about
"Sun,
things
let's
that
wait,
don't
plants
change your
need
life
sun."
initially
In
off the
fact,
bat.
the plants don't
If you
need
live in
yellow
places like we do,
so we're able
Shane
to
lives in a
reduce
city, but even
our
then he
energy
lives in a city
footprint
in
by doing things like reducing
Alberta.
certain
You know,
types of
this
spectrum.
tech
This
in San
sophisticated
Francisco is already,
climate-controlled
like, they're
system
testing it
cuts the
already
growing
there.
cycle
Like,
in half,
you know,
so
places
crops
closer
can be
to the
grown
hub of a
all
lot
year
of future
round,
things
but
and
with a
bigger
much
cities
smaller
are-
impact on the
especially in
environment.
America, are going to be where these places boom
There's
first,
all these
right?
stresses
Like, I don't
on
think
our
I could take an
planet.
Uber.
70% of our
right there.
fresh
I don't
water
think one exists yet,
contamination
does it?
comes
I
from
don't know.
agriculture.
I
About
haven't seen
70%
any,
of our
right?
fresh
But
water
that's huge.
usage
That's everywhere. So
goes
just
to
as an example.
agriculture. 1/3 of our arable land has
But
been
years down the road,
degraded
this
in the
type of
last
stuff, I
40
think, will be
years.
more and
All
more
these macro
prevalent in
trends
areas where we are.
point to the fact that we need a new way to feed our planet.
Oh, they're gonna put
One
Jardy
of the
to work.
early champions of vertical farming is Columbia University ecologist Dixon
VHL jokes for
Dupamier.
those VHL
In 1999, Dupamier
No
and his
hunger.
students proposed that vertical farms could feed overpopulated cities while using less land and less water.
Yeah,
They
that's
would
their
also
big
cut
target, right,
greenhouse
is
gases by
overpopulated
eliminating
Yeah,
the need
absolutely.
to transport food
I
over
think that-
long
I-
distances.
Which is not Canada.
And the idea
I
is
like that they
finally
showed
taking
Tokyo. Yeah,
root.
it turns out
Over
we're
the
not
past few
overpopulated.
years,
We have
vertical
thousands
farms
of
have sprouted
kilometers
all over the
unpopulated.
world, including in Vancouver,
like a
Singapore, Panama, the
national
UK, and
population
around the
6.
US. Here in Newark, Arrow Farms is building out another new farm in a former steel mill, one that's bigger than a football field. Once it's fully operational, it's expected to produce 2 million pounds of greens a year, all grown vertically.
We listen to the plants very carefully to try and understand what they're telling us and try and optimize all these different qualities of the plant. It's a tough
Okay.
business, but it's
We
one that's
listen to
going
the
stay,
plants very
and it's gonna have a
carefully.
bigger and bigger impact.
Do you think vertical farms will help solve
sounded
our food
to
production
try to
problems?
understand what
Let
they're
us
telling
know in
us.
the
That
comments
guy looks
below.
like he talks to
And check out
plants.
this next
Why do you think he's so
episode
down?
to see
His
how
social-
this
his
major
social
U.S.
life
city is
how's it
striving
going?
to become zero waste.
Just wanted to thank Stories, the YouTube channel, just so we don't get a copyright
Yeah.
strike from you, but also great video. We're
Yeah,
going to
thank
link to
you.
you in the description.
Yeah.
Give them views. They're not struggling. They got 2.4 million.
In any
Yep.
case, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's the main gist of it. So it uses way less water, uses
So we're
no
good with this
soil.
video.
It
Oh yeah, it's over.
yeah, it doesn't use any herbicides or pesticides, and you do it indoors. So to
Yeah, and
seg-
you get clearly like kilometers worth of what would be farming space covered up inside of like a warehouse. Like
yeah, it,
you
it
could.
uses like 2% as much land as regular farming for the
Yeah,
same.
well, dude, you could stick that in a skyscraper and you could get even better. Like
Yeah,
that would up cost if you have to like get yourself like a cherry picker, but
Like we should also say too, we're not necessarily advocating for the removal of farms or the removal of meat. We're just showing these technologies that we believe inevitably will one day replace a lot of what you know now, because that's
Well,
just how the world goes.
it's not even just that. But tying back to Mars, like we don't have a breathable atmosphere there, so
That's true.
you know, like it would be really nice to only have to set up a small area and be like, this is our farming land.
To
Almost
keep this leaning optimistically, not that
Because
Kyle
the future is
wasn't.
now.
I more wasn't. No matter what the industries you love, let's say you love being a farmer, there'll never be a world, probably. That's a bold statement by me, but I'm going to say it, where these types of things stop existing. Too many people care about it that nobody will, like to say no one will ever farm the traditional way ever again. That's the craziest statement of all
I mean,
time.
it could turn into a hobby at that point if they wanted to. Like, there's
Exactly,
people
right?
who farm their own
Antique
butter.
still out there collecting old things that that are valuable to certain individuals and less valuable to others all the time. Right?
Well, I mean,
I might call it old junk, but for those other people, they keep these industries alive, and they always will. That's the whole point of an internet-connected society in 2017 and beyond, is that, you know, we're always going to remember where we're from, and it's not about, you know, to keep it grounded in the earth. It's not about insulting our roots. It's mostly about letting them grow into a brighter future.
damn.
It's going to have limitless paper in a paperless world.
Anyway, yeah.
I don't even get that, but I think it's brilliant nonetheless.
I definitely did not steal that from a TV show
That's great.
that
That's
I watched
wonderful.
today.
You can't
I
say
didn't.
It. Can't say it, or we'll get a copyright strike.
Well, probably we would be fine.
I'm,
That unnamed TV show that stars Steve Carell and Rainn Wilson and
beautiful.
John Krasinski and everyone else.
And
We all
we all know
I've
what you're
heard
talking about
that
now.
one's called The Convenience Store, right? That's about a bunch of people who film a documentary series inside of a convenience store.
Yes, yes, that's the one. They're all into paper bags there.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's exactly what I was talking about.
Screw plastic. It's harmful to the environment.
Yeah. So basically, now at this point, because I'm looking for a great segue, I'm going to ask you, how do you think? Because we're not using the sun, right? So that also means we don't get like pesticides or like famines or anything like that caused by solar issues. You know, even a volcanic winter wouldn't stop us from growing food anymore, which is great. But the question
It's probably
is,
heading that way. Not to be too, I'm just
volcanic,
kidding.
nuclear, who knows? But anyways, so, but then you might ask yourself, but Shane, what about all the electricity that you're going to
Why
need?
would we ask ourselves, but Shane? Like, the only people who would say that would be people
I'll
named
bite,
Shane.
but Shane, where is all the electricity you're going to need coming from? I can't believe it.
Because solar panels are really expensive right now, as somebody who studied alternate energy as my major in my certificate, which is actually true, by the way. I didn't finish that course.
Wait, you
but
said did he just say you majored in solar power?
Alternate energy.
Oh,
is what I said.
okay. Sorry,
Right.
for a second I was like, what?
Yeah. No, there were like 4 different fields: telecommunications that nobody went to, embedded software, which was actually axed, I believe, and the third one was actually so unimportant I can't even remember what it is. But alternate energy was the cool one that everyone wanted into, and yeah, solar power, hydroelectric power, and wind power were the things that we studied. But I know the solar panels are expensive as fuck. So Shane, how would we ever be able to afford to do all that?
Well, let me tell you about a great new opportunity in solar panels.
Oh yeah. We both reacted differently. That's the stark contrast of our reactions leaves Shane bewildered. All right, Shane, what do you have to tell our listeners and us about solar panels?
Okay, so basically, first things first. In some countries, and actually over 60 countries now, the most competitive, the least expensive type of fuel for producing electricity was coal for a very, very long time. As of last year, mid-last year, about 60 of those countries, for about 60 of those countries, solar is now less expensive than coal. It is the least expensive form of electricity generation with no government subsidies in those 60 countries. So, that's part one. And I know everyone loves talking about electricity, right, because it's so exciting. But here's the thing.
I do actually find it to be exciting.
Do you find
One
it
might
to
even
be
say it's
electrifying?
electric.
How many things with electricity are we using right at this very moment?
Yeah, I mean, think about it.
Light, computer, microphone, wireless mouse. That's battery powered, but
Electricity is in batteries.
Yeah,
Yep.
Electricity is in all our energy, pretty much.
Yeah,
Yep.
Lots of it.
and basically
Headset.
everything
Unless you're like pedal biking your phone to charge it, like
yeah. What do you guys? Here, I'll pan down just like on a bike the whole time. Anytime I lag, it's because my legs got tired and I slowed down.
Sorry guys, I had to charge the phone battery.
That's why Ryan's computer always slows down every once in a while. He's the least in shape out of all of us, and he can't keep the bike going.
Anyway,
So
electricity is actually.
Not to pick on you, Ryan. It's just that you have the worst computer, so that happens the most. But.
Oh, I absolutely do.
so basically
This
the biggest
potato, I'm surprised this potato doesn't run on like pneumatic energy or whatever. I'm
pneumatic
surprised
energy
it's not
air,
old
like you're
school.
blowing in a
Yeah.
straw. to keep it
Exactly.
going.
No, it has its own contraption. It keeps itself going through, like a car.
Yeah, it runs 3 paragraphs at a time.
Okay,
So-
electricity, Shade.
So electricity. So here's the big thing though about solar and about wind and about any other type of renewable energy is that basically the big question that a lot of people ask will be, but Shane, what about storing all that energy? You can't just expect it to run through the night. Solar power doesn't work at night, Shane. Don't you know that? Solar power does not work when there's no sun.
I mean, yeah, it does. You store the excess in a battery, and then you use it during the night.
But batteries are prohibitively expensive, Shane. How does that work? Anyway,
I don't know, but I assume that you're going to be able to tell us in approximately 55 seconds.
in approximately 55 seconds.
I'm assuming you're talking about the SpaceX solar type thing, right? Where they were talking to you. You sent me a link again. This was a while back now of a house template with like a concept of how the house would run on solar and how it would have a battery backup in the house that would store enough energy to constantly keep the house energized. So even if you lived in an area that didn't have lots of sun, provided you had X amount of hours of sunlight during the day, you should be good to keep charged at all times, provided you're not using overly excessive amounts of energy.
That's actually not what I'm talking about, but that's also true.
Okay.
I'm actually one of the thing that I've got there, the little video I just pasted into our channel there, is actually something that they've done quite recently to basically wean a particular place entirely off of their fossil fuel-based generators. So I'm going to pull up the video here if you guys want to pull it up as well.
Yep.
Just let me know when you're good.
I'm good. Ryan.
I'm good.
All right, let's do it in 3, 2, 1.
Seamless.
Have you ever noticed how all these videos always use very bright, colorful, welcoming camera shots?
Features now, Ryan. Yeah, you want to attract the audience right off the bat. That's why we usually start with either Shane or my face.
$52 megawatts of energy.
It also looks like they were smart enough to make non-fixed panels, which is I'll actually get into that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, the issue with this is still how sustainable and affordable it is for the average citizen, right? A lot of these bigger companies can afford to do these.
The entire island is powered off of solar energy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And just to kind of get into what I was talking about, Ryan, it adds very little cost to increase efficiency by quite a bit to have non-fixed panels. I don't know if you know much about the rotation of the sun or the Earth around the sun, but you know that the sun will, like, the reason that we have shorter winters and longer summers is because the sun or the Earth is on a slight axis. So during the winter, that's when we're tilted more away from the sun. Obviously, that goes by hemisphere. Right? In the winter, the traditionally winter months, that tends to be the case in Canada, in the northern hemisphere. Whereas if we were to ask our dear friend Boom in Australia, that they would see the opposite in effect. But the sun doesn't go quite as high in the sky during the winter months compared to the summer months. So you want to have your panels angled at a different angle in order to capture it. Like obviously, to get the maximum efficiency, you want the panels to be directly facing exactly where the sun is at all times. So you tend to have them face south, if any direction, because you'll get the most exposure that way. And then you also angle them at the different arcs of where it'll be around noon, which is a very different height in July as opposed to December. So it does cost more, but it doesn't cost much more in order to get non-fixed panels. Okay. But it increases efficiency, which overall, you can get, if you're doing this thing on a mass scale, you'll get the same amount of power out of 2/3 of the number of panels. Even if those panels cost 10% more, obviously there's a savings there.
I don't want to turn it into fake news again, but I will bring up another. We like to present all the perspectives.
We like to play devil's advocate because it gives you the best.
Obviously, there's lots of people who look at not just wind turbines and the wind energy, but solar as well, and reports on it having impacts on wildlife and bird deaths and things of that nature.
For wind, not for solar.
I've seen even quite literally the comments in the last video we just watched told people to Google solar streamers and solar panels that kill, solar farm killer death rays touching birds. Now I don't know how legitimate this is. That's the point I'm making. Is this just
so not for this type of solar farm? So the one that we just saw because actually there is actually a type of solar farm that could theoretically kill something if it went in front of its beam. So this is not that type of solar farm though, because the type of solar panels that Tesla uses in those
passive panels.
Yeah, they're passive, exactly. So the ones that kill birds, which I'm sure Kyle well knows, they're actually the concentrator type solar farms, and what those
they're trying to get more absorb more energy than is put on the direct beam. The ones that we saw in this video, Ryan, they're literally just catching the sun's energy that would otherwise be hitting grass or pavement. So it's just they're just hanging out there and they're just catching sun. So all that energy would otherwise be going to waste.
It's a difference in design and technology and how they're implementing it.
Yeah, all that sun is already being all that energy is already being put out by the sun. Yeah, so which is why when I mentioned the angles matter more, because you're not increasing the amount of sun put out.
If you're listening to this, then you're assuming that's just solar, so that can also do that. There's your clarification. There's multiple different types of technologies and ways to use solar energy and solar panels. This is a way that is not harmful to the wildlife.
Yep, it's true, and I think those other types of solar farms I think are probably going to become less common over time because of the fact that solar PV, which is the type of panels that are being used there, are becoming so much less expensive over time.
PV meaning photovoltaic, for those of you who don't know.
Yes, good point.
Sorry, I feel the need to kind of circle jerk myself a bit because I spent a lot of money to get this information that has ultimately been completely useless so far.
It's perfectly useful here.
Yes, so I really relish in this opportunity to be I know a little bit about this.
Kyle's providing the feedback, and I'm providing the filibuster. All right.
Yeah, why do we have Shane here?
Yeah, what am I even doing?
Shane, run the tombs.
I'm pretty much just the guy who introduces the topic, and then you guys just go at it. It's great.
No, that's my job on Champions and Challengers.
He's defending the feedback and the filibuster. He's got to stay in the middle and keep it grounded.
Yeah.
Okay. So on that note, speaking of keeping grounded.
Let's go to space.
Blast off.
Let's go to space.
Yeah.
Where would we go, Shane? Would it happen to be Mars?
So here's the thing. We have solar panels. We have a way to grow food inside, both meat and vegetables. With the will, with the money, can we make it to Mars? Well, Mr. Musk himself, who I will admit I am a little biased towards, and whom I would very much appreciate if he would become my godfather.
You still need a godfather once you're like in your 20s.
I'd probably not, but I mean,
Like,
I would.
What do
take
you
it
want him?
anyways.
What kind of role would he serve as your godfather?
He wouldn't
Like, you
really.
can
I
just
Give you away at your wedding. You're already married, dude.
I just want a
Yeah,
chance
yeah,
to
yeah.
talk
But
to
I
the
mean,
guy.
is he like? Do you want to like kiss his ring, and then he says, "Okay, shit, we're gonna send you to Mars, and you're gonna take care of Fat Tony. Fat Tony's stirring up some problems."
I didn't realize that's where you were going with that. When I was thinking of like a traditional godfather.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's the thing.
Is he going to make you an offer that you
I
can't
mean,
refuse?
let's be real. Some people would lean it that that's even what's happening. I mean, is he not the future nuts equivalent of a godfather? But you know, I'm not saying he hasn't delivered. He's delivered on lots of things, but he's still got lots more promises, and I don't know. He might not deliver on all of them. It's a big world. There's lots of things.
So you're saying he's like the future Godfather, except for the lack of being the head of a gigantic family-run criminal enterprise that kills people.
Hey, it doesn't have to be family run to be a godfather. It just has to be run.
Yeah,
You don't
technically,
have
a
to
lot of the
kill
people in the
Hey,
family
hey,
are not technically in the family.
How many birds
They're in the
has he killed?
family. How many birds does
He's
he
killing
kill?
birds instead. Yeah, he's killing the bird population. That's their target.
No, what do you think? He's
Or
like
you can
10?
argue that they're just killing everyone's jobs because they want to change the world.
Damn,
There you
maybe.
go. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm trying to find a Godfather analogy, and it's tough. But they're yeah.
Because they're doing decidedly nice things for people. Yeah.
SpaceX is taking us to Mars. We have a video to show on it, don't we?
We do. This is 100% true. So Elon Musk's other company, SpaceX, and he has a few of them. There's actually another one that I'm not going to be able to cover this time, the Boring Company, which is even more interesting. But
So this is separate than the mission to Mars that is the reality TV type show, or has that been canceled?
oh yeah, no, that I
don't
don't know.
recall.
I don't know
That was
actually the state of
canceled?
that. I stopped following that after a little bit because there.
That was also Elon Musk, wasn't it?
No.
Okay, that was someone else.
Yeah, it
See,
was
there's-
this Dutch guy.
Ah,
It might actually
people.
still be. It might still be going on. They're
this
just for
Dutch
those-
guy.
for
He left
people-
an impression, I can tell.
For people who don't know what we're talking about, it's basically there was this Kickstarter or was it an Indiegogo? Anyways, it was a crowdfunding for a reality TV show, which would select people to compete for a chance to go to Mars. Or sorry, let me put this another way. It would select people who would train to go for a privately funded mission to Mars, and how it would be funded is from the revenue from ads on this reality TV show. That was the kind of gist of
And
what
the
was
Kickstarter funding itself.
Was it hosted by Jeff Probst?
Tribute.
That would be fantastic. I'm pretty sure it was going to be hosted by a Dutch guy.
It would have happened if it was. Also, in 20 years, Jeff Probst is still going to be alive, and he will Bob Barker Survivor
I
Mars.
was about to say he's the new Bob Barker.
Yes, Survivor Mars.
Oh, dude.
That'll happen.
Survivor
That'll
Mars!
absolutely happen.
Okay. Just
So-
decided the new
In
name
our
of this
lifetime, I
episode
might
is
be
Survivor
90. In
Mars.
our lifetime, we will watch a season of Survivor Mars.
Yeah, everyone's botanist just got
We'll get
crushed.
together and remember this moment. And go, I told you. Look, it's only 2065. We're here.
It's possible. I could see it. Because in no small part, because of a few visionary people. This is just one of the companies that I like to cover that's going out into the solar system to do really cool things. Another one's Planetary Resources, which I want to get at some point, where they're actually mining asteroids. But anyways, before that, let's watch this video of Elon
We're all
Musk's
good.
vision for how we get to Mars.
Space interplanetary transport system.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Go.
1, 2.
Dude, we're so good at this now.
And, you know, we should say, too, a lot of these videos are concepts.
So this is definitely conceptual for sure. He did a TED Talk recently where he elaborated a little bit on this. It's something.
And,
Indeed.
you know, sometimes I get a little bit of the Peter Moore vibe from Elon Musk. Like, he reaches big. But, you know, he lives in a time where the technology is starting to catch up to the point where you can also succeed big.
Well, and
Whereas I
sometimes
felt
it's not,
like
sometimes it's not
Peter
even-
Moore was more reaching big and, or sorry, not Peter Molyneux is what I meant to say, not Peter
Peter
Moore. Peter
Molyneux.
Molyneux.
Yeah.
The
Peter
lead,
Molyneux.
lead on Fable. He would constantly talk about how crazy the game would be, and then it sort of crazy, as he said, would be in the game because it's just sometimes you gotta release a product.
Yep.
Yeah, so
I feel like he meant everything he said, but he didn't quite get there. Sorry, go ahead, Shane.
Oh yeah, just for the record, the interplanetary transit rocket, if it existed, would be, I think, at least 10 times more powerful than the next most
still not nearly as strong as like a Kerbal-built rocket, for example.
So I'm assuming this video will show us, but is it just a rocket that this video is about for the transport system, or is there more?
Stage separation, right? Yeah, we got like 4 minutes of stuff here. Oh,
If this video features,
they've got the monopropellant going there.
Also, can we just say as a side, space is crazy awesome.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, the
regardless of
booster
whether
sends it back to
whether
its
you're just go,
Earth.
but what space is the fact that you're in three dimensions and always spinning, and like that's existence. That's always been existing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's gravity
Changes
does
our
that.
perspective on what the world
If you
is.
have enough fuel left, you can get it right. Yep.
Yep.
Right back
Wow.
to launch.
So
Yeah.
this is, and he's already doing this, right? Like if you guys have missed it, he's actually landed multiple rockets and he's actually relaunched one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they just
Are-
refill right there.
yeah.
With
Is
a little shot.
is the booster manned, or is that all done through automation?
No, it's complete. Well, it's really smart software. I think it's almost entirely automated. I don't know exactly.
And then
off the
people
top.
just so what is the early pitch
That'd be
for what this will be? Is this just we're gonna take people on vacations to space if they
No,
want?
this is how we get
Okay.
people to make a city on Mars.
Well, eventually, but I'm just saying for now.
No, that's what this
That-
is.
Okay,
this,
that's
this
what
is getting
meant
people
to be. Okay.
to go to Mars.
Okay, that's fine.
Because one of Elon Musk's stated goals is to have 1 million people on Mars in his lifetime, which is enough to make it self-sufficient according to his calculations.
200 kilowatts of power. Oh, this is like completely looking like Kerbal. That's the favorite thing. Yep.
According to his calculations. Okay, so
Yeah.
that
That's the other
number
nice
could
thing
be
about
wrong.
when you're in
Nobody knows
space.
for sure. We've never had to make a self-sufficient civilization on another planet. before.
Maybe.
No.
So it is definitely a guess.
You know what's fair too? Anyone who's like, oh, but the solar panels don't run at night. They do if you're not on Earth, idiot.
This is 100% true. I mean,
Well,
unless he
there's
gets
no
really,
such
really
thing
far.
as night, Kyle.
No, I know, but
When you're in space,
yeah,
There are-
night.
By the
There
way, I
is
just
no
want to
day,
point out,
there is no
they're
night,
there is
coasting,
no
they're
time.
coasting at 100,000 kilometers an hour. If you guys didn't see that, that's their interplanetary coast.
Well, yeah, because you don't actually have to.
no, yeah. Once you've created your orbit, it
Yeah,
just
it's not like you
goes.
slow down because of friction, because there is almost none in vacuum. Yeah, then you just have to get yourself slowed back down because you don't want to land on Mars going at a similar speed.
100,000 kilometers an hour. Yeah.
The fact that they can show detailed speed and temperatures proves that they've really ran these concepts a lot.
Yeah.
This didn't just someone didn't just make this video.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's fair to say that they'll probably send like an unmanned one first before they actually send people, just in case they fuck up, right? Like,
Well, we've already sent them.
right, but I mean, like with the same rocket though, Ryan.
Oh, okay.
No, I know we did that before I was born with like the Mars rover. Or, I don't think that was actually before I was born. Wasn't that like '97?
But I mean, wasn't the recent big discovery that they found that the water could exist on Mars, or there was evidence that water once existed?
Yeah, well, I believe that like they have atmospheric issues, but that wasn't always the case. Mars was once capable of sustaining life. It just didn't.
Okay.
Like,
Didn't do it forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's entirely possible. And I think
So
that,
that's that's the concept for his Mars rover. Now, does he have any dates given for that? A year even? When does he think that he'll begin sending people to Mars for that specifically?
he did actually state, and let me just find it here. Blah blah blah. Where is it here? Okay, let me find the actual date, but it's within, I think, sometime in the 2020s, if I remember right.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry,
So the
maybe
reason-
not necessarily for that specific, not for the interplanetary transport per se, but to get someone to Mars.
Okay.
yeah.
So
Wouldn't it be
yeah,
cool if,
that,
like-
the specific concept we saw is probably a good decade plus out.
Yeah, a good decade plus,
Not
I think, is
more.
probably.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
actually,
It'd be so cool if somebody like shows up at like the DMV and they're like, "Oh, where's your passport say you're from?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm from Mars though." Like,
Martian.
Yeah.
That we'll enter that world eventually where people are born on Mars, and that's
yeah,
what they'll
you're gonna have planet of origin on passports eventually.
yeah,
one day.
yeah, eventually. I mean, that's pretty freaking exciting sounding to me. I don't know about you guys, but
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
And for those saying, Elon Musk is just a dreamer, I'll have you remember that this is the same guy who people said electric cars wouldn't do anything with, and now Ford has purchased them from him. So, not electric cars, but Ford is purchasing the electric car model that he makes from him. So, that's only one big company. It's only a matter of time till Chevy and the rest of them all get on board too, because like we said, once an industry starts to push far enough to the future where it's obvious that it's inevitable that they are going to succeed the previous technology, companies start investing. That's just how this works.
What's sorry, you said that Tesla was selling a car to Ford?
What, Ford purchased electric cars from Tesla, correct?
I Well, they
I
may
thought
have
I
worked on a
read something
drivetrain or
about
something, but the thing is about Tesla is that their
leasing.
car, all of their electric car patents, they made them free now. You can technically
Oh,
go,
really? Okay,
yeah.
sorry. Maybe the purchase is wrong then. I had read something a while back. Someone had shared me something that Tesla was working with Ford in some capacity, and Ford was basically backing the electric car movement, which Elon Musk was essentially the forefronter of, or the one of the founders of, right? So
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I shouldn't say, I don't know if all of them are, sorry, but the vast majority I think are. Everything related to the electric drivetrain, maybe the
okay.
battery, everything like that
Yeah, so he's
is
just giving the tech out to these companies.
yeah,
But the fact that these companies are, my point still stands because the fact that these companies are investing in them
oh yeah, I
is
mean even
essentially saying we're ready for we recognize that this is coming.
because I mean there's still the Model 3 coming out this year, so we'll talk about cars briefly. I know that you guys can't stay on for too much longer, but basically
It's okay.
the Model 3 is going to come out, which has like a 400 plus kilometer range. It's aimed to start production this year. But even the Chevy Bolt, which is actually surprising, like I'm not usually a huge fan of American
there you go,
cars,
yeah.
but the Chevy
Chevys are
Bolt, 383 kilometer estimated range, and its price is around $35,000 before any kind of incentive. So if you live in one of the communist provinces to the east of us, you can get them for much cheaper. And yes, I'm joking when I say communist, but basically, if you if you can pay that 35,000, which is not that high for a decently spec'd car, relatively speaking, for a brand new decently spec'd car, then you can get basically 99% of your transport needs on electricity, just like that. So, and that's a mainstream auto manufacturer.
And then keep in mind, as your house starts to expand and you start to look at cheaper products to run your entire home off solar, suddenly then you're running your home and your car without having to spend any excess money every month. Now, the initial investment for some of these might be high, but as Shane said, some of the initial investments you start to do the math where I start saving money on this in a year or in a year and a half based on how much I spent, right? And that's when people start adapting this technology in widespread, even rural people, because it just becomes too economic perspective.
It's one of my favorite things about the exact stage we're in right now is that when I was growing up, a lot of the things we're talking about right now, like even private space flight, people are like, that is way too fucking expensive. That'll never happen. NASA can barely afford to do it. But then you have like people who come in and companies that come in and do things. They might not even be using super fancy technology, but they'll combine things in ways that haven't been done before to bring the cost way down, to bring the efficiency way up, to make it cheaper to operate. And all of a sudden you don't have this, you have to be an idealistic person to believe in it. It's just simple economics after a while. And I feel like we're entering that stage now where technology is advancing so quickly that it's becoming an economic question now. It's no longer I want to make the world a better place because I feel like I need to, even if it costs me everything I own. It's more like I can do some part of making the world a better place and also do it for more cheaply than what I am spending right now on whatever it is that I'm talking about.
You're talking about that battle you see too between people who are very idealistic versus people who don't like that aspect because they think those people are trying to change their world or change the industrial world. And I think each of those sides, and this is often the case, doesn't recognize that there's a middle ground of us that it's like we get that the old world was the old world. We were born from an industrial age and era. We get all the advancements and how much this helps society, but it doesn't change the fact that, as you said, economically it makes more sense to go this way. And even if it didn't make sense economically, I mean, there is this idea that you cannot create a self-contained bubble that is sufficient on its own. You know what I mean? Like this idea that you can't create an ecosystem that just is sufficient in a circular way. And I think that, solar energy, renewable energies prove that. Like a lot of things are starting to show that the economics eventually make sense to the point where you can create that, and then you just leave it. And I think that scares a lot of people because that's so far in the future that they never thought that they would be alive to see it. And as someone who's older myself, I'm almost 30. I turned 29 in 5 days or 6 days here.
You should remember.
I get it. I get why that's scary. I remember logging into the internet for the first time and thinking, this is crazy. What is this thing? And for those who don't know, for me, that was like back in the 90s. Now I see the kids nowadays engaging with what they engage with, and I don't get it. I don't understand half of it, but I'm not scared of it because it's still all rooted in everything we did before, and it always will be. One of the things I always like to talk about is, you know, this is just going to be a Star Trek reference, but you'll notice, for those who have seen The Next Generation, there are several characters who consistently reference Shakespeare and old literature. We will always remember what we built and the years we built it. Just because we're trying to improve both the economic and environmental impact of something doesn't mean we're trying to destroy what we built. We're trying to enhance it, right? We're trying to make it better. We're trying to push it forward for a modern time. And, you know, in a lot of ways, I think we do get some of this pushback because, like, people trying to say, well, we need to focus on solar. We need, you know, Shane was saying companies investing in things even when they're not financial, don't make financial sense, because that our technology is years ahead of culture and the society in general. And until we catch up, that circle that we want to create where we can just create energy in your house. And like I said, if you imagine a world where you have solar panels all over your entire house, you have a solar car, and you paid for a system to set up solar, at a certain point after you make back your initial cost of that house, you are no longer paying for energy. You get it for free. We can live in that world. So there's nothing wrong with pushing for the economics to make sense, so we can live in that circle where things that you would once have to pay for, you never have to pay for, because that's the whole point. People shouldn't have to pay to exist. Like, and that's like the arguments that we're making.
Yeah, to give a this is obviously anecdotal, but there was a guy who was a professor at the college I went to. I don't think he still is anymore, but he set up his own house that is completely run self-sufficient on energy. He is hooked up to the grid, and he got special permission from the government to set it up so that he actually gets money back on his electric bill every month because he provides a surplus of power and puts that back on the grid.
Oh, see, and then
Now he has a very, like, they had to,
community. It matters.
He had to, like, that's like a very special case. Like, they won't just let people do that, because if you fuck it up, then you can draw.
But that's a very special case now. Give it 30 years.
Yeah, it's
right?
possible now.
Suddenly, no one's ever hurting for energy ever. Yes. That's the whole, like, in any planet, in any country. But that's the idea, right?
There are some places in Europe now where their renewable energy, they have so much coming onto the grid that they quote unquote have to pay people to use electricity. So they actually, because the electricity value goes below zero, they actually have to pay people to do it because they've got so much going on all at once. The one thing I wanted to mention though is actually here where I live, in my city, and actually in Alberta in general, there's a company called Spark. They've actually just merged into Alberta Renewable Co-op, I think. And how it works basically is you can sign up and get their lowest variable rate, which is whatever is being generated. Most of the electricity in Alberta is made by coal, but you can sign up for the other plan that they have, which is where you actually buy electricity from the people in your area. So right now, like, there's YYC Solar, it's a Calgary thing, where what we are buying from right now, like, our electricity is 100% someone else's solar panels right now. All the electricity we're using right now. And they get paid, they get a subsidy off their electric bill because we're buying that electricity. So that's something that exists right now. So they put the money from their solar panels on their house into the grid, and then they get paid for it. And that's happening right now.
They get paid for it. Yeah. So consider, though, if we enter a world, and we are, where energy is at such surplus, no one needs it, no one's ever clamoring for it, then all these devices that use lots of energy but create things out of nothing in some cases, or, you know, in even what we looked at today, you know, you look at the meat or the Aero Grow, the Aero greenhouse. I don't remember the exact name of it.
Vertical farming.
There you go, the vertical farming, but their company name was Aero something. I knew it was Aero. They're Aero Farm, okay. That all runs on energy, but if you're not paying for energy, then suddenly you're growing food for free.
The cost goes significantly further down.
Then you do enter the Star Trek future. That's the whole point. If all we're using is energy to keep people alive, both heating, housing, you know, food, and energy is free, then we're living for free.
A post-scarcity world. It's not exactly free, but it's so close to free that most people will never notice the cost to live.
Then it's so close to free that the people who are willing to give out of the goodness of their heart, like the people who are making money on energy just to give to other people, the people who are willing to do that are suddenly, as Shane said, it's so close to free that those type of people can handle all the excess of people who can't afford it, because there's so many people with enough extra that it's like, whatever, what do I care?
I think my favorite part of this is someone who tends to go a little bit more economically conservative, like, at least in principle, is that this isn't something that you have to have a massive government program to run, or this isn't something that you have to enforce on people. This is something that happens as a result of natural market forces, that eventually something becomes so cheap that even if, and I think we're going to talk about this more in the future, as automation goes on and people lose jobs, if there's some sort of universal basic income or welfare system or whatever, it doesn't even have to be very much. It can be, comparable to current levels, and people will still live much better lives than they do right now, because their basic necessities will be so much less expensive than what they are, because energy will be like almost free, which is, I think it's a world that everybody benefits from, except for the current entrenched interests in the energy industry, the people who aren't making solar panels, basically the people who are owning the power plants and the power lines. But for everyone else,
like it's obviously not in their interest, but
no, but like
at the end of the day,
species
is a species. Yeah, at the end of the day, humanity's not going to wait when everyone's ready. And as Shane said, it's not like a government is coming down and saying you must use solar, you must, adapt to this future. It's just going to be a cost of economics. It's going to be everyone regardless of political opinion, will start saying, why are you spending money on this? I switched to this once we have the power pack in our house and solar's just running all our energy. They're going, I switched to this 2 years ago and I haven't paid for energy since. I started making all my savings. Then people go, well, this makes sense. And because it's happening, as Shane said, out in the private business world, it means that there's no influence of opinion. There's nothing. It's just a product. And does a product work? Does it save you money? Then that's it. That's all it really takes.
Yeah. Yep. Especially when it has like positive side effects rather than negative, right? Because that's the only other argument whenever it's like, does a product work and does it save you money? Does it have negative side effects, right? Then
what are the consequences?
Right, but if those are positive side effects, there's not even an ethical dilemma anymore. It's just like, why would you not?
And I mean, you are going to have people who ethically, and this exists already on all over the place, ethically make their purchasing decisions regardless of economics.
Right, but those people will buy something too, because those people
maybe because but when I say ethically, I mean from their ethics. There are people who intentionally buy diesel trucks to coal people. They're just as there's people who will intentionally spend an extra $100 if the chicken they buy is grain or is torture free or whatever, right? Like there's people who will apply their own sense of morals and beliefs to their purchasing decisions. But those people, cool, you exist. I think that's insane to a certain degree. Like the only extreme I go to that is like I try not to shop at places that use a lot of Chinese products because we still aren't completely sure that there aren't slave labor children's things going on over there, and that to me, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with people getting paid $1 a day for that are underage. So right. I try to be a little more local because of that, because I know the local people here, they have flyers and signs, right? I'm a craft beer drinker, for example, for the exact same reason. Like I believe that as a community, if we put money together and work together as a pool, everyone wins, and that is usually how things work.
Ryan's the most communist out of all of us. I just want to mention that right now.
He is.
Yeah.
But
he's still not communist, but I think that is a true statement.
But keep in mind, I'm saying I believe in that community aspect as it relates to business. So it's one of those things where, by me supporting a local business, I'm giving them money from their products aren't more expensive. It's not like I'm giving extra money. They're just their regular business, right?
Sure. But I'm just going to raise one question maybe you haven't thought of, Ryan. So we'll take away the children part of it just for a moment, but adults who are working in those factories in China who are getting paid like $1 a day, why do they take those jobs?
I mean, they're their own economic situation there. Like they obviously take the
sure,
jobs
but we're moving towards a more globalized economy where
yes. But at the end of the day, the more we move towards a globalized economy, the more tension we're going to have with countries like
sure.
that do things their way. I mean, keep in mind, this is a website that has off and on blocked Wikipedia countless times. Or sorry, a country
that's blocked the website.
There's lots of sites that China still blocks from its users, right? A lot of people don't like the freedom of information because the freedom of information usually leads to
why is everyone else have better shit than us?
And safer ways out there. Why are they different than us?
That's what they would ask. I mean, if they had with the freedom of information.
Probably they're different than us because, well, I say us as in North America because yes. America became this cultural mile hub of the world, and a lot of the things it does got popular.
Yeah. The point I was
capitalism, like the way that spread across the world in multiple ways. Like countries are just adapting to how
the point I was
they're a big pivotal people in that. But go ahead.
Yeah, the point I was trying to get to was like we say like, oh, it's shitty that they get stuck with those jobs, but if they had better alternatives, they probably would do those instead, right? So, like, yeah, they're looking a little more short term, but they're taking those jobs for a reason. If we take those away, then you have to worry about other factors of like, well, now like they're even worse off than they were.
But Kyle, maybe they don't know what's better. Like, that's the thing. When you deal with countries that suppress information,
oh, absolutely.
How do we know that the person who works for $1 a day at a Chinese factory or whatever, how do we know that said person has enough information to recognize that what they're getting paid is absolutely ridiculous compared to anything? Like, there's no, like, you know what I mean? Like, they might not know that. So from their perspective, they go, I was starving before, now I'm not starving. And, you know, there are people who let them think that way, and they want to suppress that information so that they never change.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm like, well, we should just leave shit alone because it's obviously working fine, but things have to be done in order, right? We can't we can't take away those systems and then not give them any help.
I also recognize too, by me not shopping at said, you know,
no, I know,
I won't name the chain, but said chains that do practice in a lot of this, it doesn't contribute to some overall impact. There is a part of me that goes, I've worked in positions where you're not paid a lot, and I've been paid way more than they have. And I recognize that, you know, companies take advantage of people when people aren't willing to, you know, make those changes and make those demands. Like, you know, we talk a lot, or sorry, not we, but people talk a lot about how bad unions are. And I'm not a huge union supporter. I'm kind of in the middle on it. But I mean, at the end of the day, people should have a right to stand up for their working conditions and how much they get paid. Like,
absolutely.
They're entitled to that.
I also wasn't saying I even disagreed
to.
with you. I just like testing people's logic for consistency, which you do have.
Consistency, yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. Well, because like if somebody believes the right thing but they're doing it for the wrong reasons, that's not really good, right?
Because they might then change their mind for the wrong reasons later, right? Like,
exactly.
You're looking for convictions. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it's an interesting, you know, it's an interesting world we live in. But trying to catch those countries up, you know, not just on, like, we're already seeing that based on the current economic sector. So once we start adding in free energy, like for me, the big step is going to be free internet all around the world. Then it's just a matter of time before everything changes, because as long as people have access to information, then the best information will rise to the top. That's how that always works.
Which is being tackled in Africa by people like Zuckerberg with his drones and balloons, and Google as well, who want to give internet to Africa at least, because Africa, they have much less infrastructure there to disrupt the flow of free internet. So just throwing that out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then once you get into a world with, sorry, Ryan, just to go up on the thing there. Once you get into a world where energy becomes less of an issue, right? There's going to be a lot less national tension because, like, oh, we better go. We got to go to war over oil. Well, why? Like that
won't be a thing anymore at some point.
Yeah, why bother? So like that just cuts down on reasons for tension, which means everyone's helping everybody because you're not like, well, you know, we've got these two rivaling geniuses who are building things completely independently of each other because one lives in the States and one lives in Russia, and they're not on great terms right now. It's like, well, fuck it. Like, why don't we just get there faster, and then we'll just get those two dudes in a room together? Like, I picked those two countries because they've had issues in the past. Not anything. I'm not trying to infer anything right now, but like they had this whole thing called the Cold War.
Although we will also see tensions, and we are now, while we go through this transition process,
right? There will be
transition free energy, because there are people who are big players out there, not just companies, but also countries who've invested a lot of time and money into things that will be replaced by alternative energy sources.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's say fossil fuels, let's say coal, et cetera, et cetera. And that's one of those things where what those people do, people in power in a lot of cases, is going to be really pivotal in how much conflict there is over this transition process. You know, maybe they get super offended, maybe they don't like it, maybe they try to stop it. Like there's
but eventually those people die of old age, and then we just move on.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I advocate for the free internet. It isn't just so everyone in Africa can use Twitch or Twitter, like whatever. It's so at the end of the day, the freedom of all the information of the internet, like for anyone who uses the internet as a legitimate tool, not just to Snapchat their hot nudes. That's what the kids do, right? I'm trying to stay current. I don't Snapchat, but I'm sure that's what the kids
so
do.
Old right now. I love it.
Yeah.
Grandpa Ryan.
just the ability, and again, Wikipedia isn't the best source of all information, but it's curated enough that, like, even on a page, like I'll use a page that we use all the time, for example, UFC pages, people make joke edits to that all the time, pretty fast. Those are re-edited back. Like, you do have to have enough citable sources for something to stay on a wiki page long enough. And if, you can trick people if you do it fast. Like, I remember tricking Shane once where he thought average height was shorter than some, so I quickly changed it to what mine was just before he looked at the page. But if he would have waited 10 minutes to look at the page, that wouldn't have been what I put. Like, it doesn't take them that long to change it.
Did it work?
It did. Shane looked at it fast enough and went, "What?" But then I eventually revealed it to him because I had too much guilt. That's right. I had too much guilt about changing average height on a Wikipedia page and then showing it to my friend.
That's such a good meme.
But then it's just an inevitability, I think, if you give people the freedom of information. If there is a such thing as a free energy like we are talking about, if everyone knows about that and everyone over time learns of it, people are going to switch to it because it's free energy.
Well, it's not even just that. Like, you're going to get better results out of things too, right? How many people who have like, genius levels of intelligence that are born into places where they never get to use them because they have to worry about, like, wasting all their time not dying, right? Like, you could have like the world's, like, genetically smartest person could be born into, like, a poor African country, and then they never get any education because it takes them 5 hours to get to water every day, and then. Yeah,
you're kind of just speaking on a larger idea that I know Shane and I have privately discussed several times. This idea that every human being on this planet and every future human being is the person who could potentially solve some of our greatest problems. You never know who could cure cancer. You never know.
What would have happened if
a million things
died in the woods?
And that's the whole point of giving everyone a chance, is that you never know what then they'll do for the world, right? Because the people who have accomplished the great things in the world, they were all babies at one point. They were all, their life choices led them to where they are. And
there's definitely a cutoff, though. Like, I feel like there's some people
live at all. Their life choices just lead them to death because that's all that happens.
Yeah, sadly. And there's definitely, like, a point where you can tell when someone's not going to accomplish much. Like, some of the people I work with, I feel fairly confident saying they're not going to change the world anytime soon. And, like, we can probably just forget about them. I said
we might be able. Shots fired.
Shots fired at some of my coworkers. You don't know who you are.
Oh, so he's all sneaky. We got a low-key. We got a trickster on our hands here.
Yeah.
Anyway, that kind of rounds up.
I'm probably not going to change the world either. I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, very few of us actually do. But the point is that the backstory for the people that do is very varied. They come from all sorts of different backgrounds, and that's the whole point. Let's give everyone a chance. Also, there's so many more people on the other side of the world than there is on this side of the world. America has such a lower number of population than Asia and Africa and China and Japan.
Well, those places have been kind of populating for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
China's in fact most of Asia.
But that's one of the reasons why they have so many issues. But if we were to, if those issues were to be solved, how many extra potential productive bodies do you get out there? So many more.
Tons.
More importantly, productive minds, I think.
Yeah, productive minds. That's big.
Yeah. Okay, so on that note, I think we've had a fantastic discussion, and it went even much further than I was expecting in a good way. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, no problem.
We're gonna call this.
I'm excited for the future.
Yeah.
This past might have been filled with some joking negativity and some good devil's advocate where it's needed. I think people who live in our rural area should respect that we believe that they have legitimate opinions at times. We also believe that they can also overreact, but so can anyone.
I think people always have legitimate opinions. It's just they don't always agree with them.
But yeah, exactly. But the future still is bright, even if you have a negative opinion, or even if you are very invested in other things in the world. You can't deny that technology has a capacity to change lives. I think the very fact that everyone, regardless of how negative or positive or what their opinion side's on, is arguing on Facebook is proof. I mean, that's the internet at work. Remember, that wasn't a thing 20 years ago. So
it's true.
Absolutely. For our closing topic, if I may, because this is only going to take a couple of minutes as we just go on things. Yep. Survivor Mars. How cool would that actually be? Like, instead of having it be like a thing where I lost the clock here, but it's okay. 24-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. Instead of having a thing where it's like the tribe has spoken, and then he sends you off into your down a ramp. He fucking puts you in a rocket and just ships you off the planet. He just sends you back to Earth.
See, it would work too because like that whole idea that I would work thematically because they're all like, oh, we're in a tribe. Well, you would be in a tribe if you're going to colonize a new planet because you'd be a small group of people. You wouldn't be a large group.
And it's not
I'm
even
not saying
just
these
like
people would colonize the planet. But like I think the lingo works.
yeah, and like the like around camp is gonna be so much more interesting. It's not like, oh, we caught a lizard to eat now. Now it's like we had to figure out oxygen because the oxygenator broke. And like every episode could be the last episode because like
I don't know if they would allow that, but okay.
Well, it wouldn't be on purpose.
Well, let's remember too that they're not on Earth, so
yeah, it's not like our laws apply.
I mean, I'm assuming we
True.
have some sort of laws.
But I'm just saying, that if their oxygenator broke, as an example of the lingo you used, the show producers would get it running. They don't let them die in Survivor.
No. I'm not saying they would die. I'm saying, but like, if they would try to
go
get it
into
running,
Mars, there would already be a dome where they could live a breathable atmosphere. It would just be,
but
hey,
like a panel
let's
fell out
grow
of the dome.
vegetables and do whatever you have to do to live out here like this.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's something on purpose, but like if something the show producers couldn't do anything about, like the main one breaks, and it's like, well, you're fucked now. Like,
oh yeah, you can easily see season of emergency evacuation. Space is hard.
I can even see like something interesting being like, for people who are colonizing the far reaches of Mars, like the places where we aren't at right now, and they've got to do things like dig out mountains and stuff like that and go underground and like actually build a workable colony, and say they've only got like 3 months to do it or something like that. I think that's the type of like HGTV Mars that I would totally watch. That's home TV like, for everyone who doesn't know what that is.
If we think reality TV is bad now, just wait till we go to space. Reality TV is just waiting for a big reason to revoke its big interests.
Oh, 100%.
The moment people start doing crazier and crazier things is the moment reality TV becomes even more crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed.
Not that it's not already at a level of extreme crazy.
Insanity, yeah.
And for the record, where's Survivor Canada? Where's Survivor Winter? Why is it always on a frickin' tropical island with snakes and sharks? I would participate if you went out with the wolves and bears, because then I could get a gun or something and defend myself. I don't need to worry about some sneaky animals.
Prost gives you a gun if you manage to successfully kill a polar bear with the knife that they give you.
Yeah, we're gonna go to polar bear.
Guns are the new Flint.
We're literally gonna go to Nunavut. We're gonna go to the hardest places to live and freeze to death.
Survivor Yukon.
I just mean like even a forest. Why does it always have to be some tropical frickin' island?
I think like a boreal forest would be really interesting, actually. Like, and you have to like dig out your shelter in the snow, and you got to make bannock yourself, and like create your teepees out of the skinned animals that you kill, things like that.
Like the show isn't really regulars anymore, anyway. It hasn't been regulars for ages. There are people who know how to survive. Like I get the initial hesitation, like we can't send a bunch of random people into the forest where if they can't make a fire, they die because it's too cold at night. But none of the people that they get on the show now can't make a fire. Everyone already knows.
Yeah, there's like a Survivor meta. They people know how to make fire with a flint now.
That's quite literally it. There is a meta to that game show. That's what it is. It is an extreme version of a game show that tests more than just your initial skills. It tests long-term skills. But yeah, like a boreal forest, like Shane was saying, go somewhere where it might be cold enough where you have to make a fire at night, and how quick you get that up determines, how much frostbite you get.
You're playing for reward. Your reward is a parka.
Yep. I mean, you could even give them tents.
Second prize is mittens.
Like you can give them some luxuries, but they just have to be in the forest, with animals that are also predators.
Yeah.
To keep things lively.
We don't need tribal council this week because 2 people got eaten by a tiger.
A Siberian tiger.
There you go, tigers. Yeah.
Siberian tiger. Yeah. All right, so with that, people getting eaten by Siberian tigers, thanks once again.
Yeah, to end this really optimistic episode.
Yeah.
Filibusters.
It's okay, there's no tigers on Mars.
I will say, as we're outering, I'll let Shane do it. Yeah, I'll do this part for you. Go ahead and hit the like button.
Nope.
It'll give us a big old thumbs. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm actually insisting you do it now. No, please do. You're presenting now.
Okay.
You muted him! I can't hear him at all. You're a dick.
I didn't even know I could do that. Ryan's just doing hand gestures, but if I don't let anyone talk to him, it's like...
Kyle's like, I didn't realize he could unmute himself.
No, I knew you could. I didn't realize I could actually mute you.
Anyway, like, subscribe, you know the drill. If you like our stuff, please support us. We do have a charity run, a Giant Bomb Community Endurance charity run coming on Friday.
Explosive runs.
Between 6 to 10 p.m. Mountain Time, so 8 to 12 midnight Eastern. We'll be playing Starbound. We got 5 of us confirmed on board right now. The 3 men we see here, as well as MIA Chris Miller. Chris Miller will be featured soon, though. We got some new content releasing this week. We got lots of content on schedule, so thank you for following us for those who do. And otherwise, I'll just say that everybody's a botanist.
No, we changed the name to Survivor Mars.
All right, from this tribal council, we're going to say goodbye to Kyle Snow.
The tribe has spoken.
Ryan Power.
I am the fucking tribe.
And I'm Shane Probst. And have a good night, y'all.